There was a specific moment, and I remember it pretty clearly, where I had done enough journaling, enough reflecting, enough sitting with my feelings about my life and what I wanted it to look like. I wasn't in denial anymore. I wasn't pretending everything was fine. I had done the work. I knew something needed to change, and I had absolutely no idea what to do next. Not in a dramatic way, but in a quieter, actually frustrating way. Like I was standing in a room full of doors and I couldn't figure out which one was mine. I'd reach for one door and talk myself out of it. I'd get excited about another one. Then I'd find 17 reasons why it wasn't realistic. Then I'd make a list, start a plan, abandon that plan, make another list. What I needed wasn't more inspiration. I had and have plenty of inspiration. What I needed was a structure that would help me actually figure out what I wanted, not what made sense on paper, not what other people thought I should be doing, and not even what seemed responsible given my age and circumstances, what I actually wanted. And then a way to move toward it in a way that didn't require me to blow up my life to get started. That thing didn't exist for me, so I built it. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. If we haven't met, I'm Maya. I go by Emmy Goodwin, and I happen to be over 50, and I make videos for women who are in the middle of reinventing themselves and want to talk about what that actually looks like. I am not doing this from the finish line. I'm in it right now, the same as you. There's a gap in the reinvention conversation. On one side, you have the emotional work, the journaling, the therapy, the long walks, the late night conversations with yourself about what you really want. That work matters. It does. It's necessary. And for a lot of us, it takes a while. On the other side, you have the action content, the 5-step plans, the productivity systems, the here's how to build a business in 90 days content that they assume that you already know what you're building and just need to know how. What lives in between those two things is where most of us actually are. We've done enough emotional work to know that we want something different. We're not ready for a 5-step business plan. We need something that helps us figure out what we actually want first, and then move toward it in a way that feels real and sustainable and honest. That middle space is what I built the 90-day reinvention planner for. I want to talk you through how it's structured, not as a sales pitch at all, just so you understand the thinking behind it, because the structure is what matters. It's built around 3 phases, and I named them the way I named them on purpose. The first phase is called discover. This is the phase most planning tools skip entirely. Before you can decide what comes next, you have to get honest about where you actually are right now. What's working? What isn't? What you've been tolerating? What you've been quietly wanting for a long time, longer than you're willing to admit. I built a framework inside this phase called the Clarity Compass. It's not a personality test. It's not a value exercise that you've seen 100 times. It's a set of questions, and it's designed to cut through all of that noise, the shoulds, the practical considerations, the opinions of everyone else around you, and get you to what's actually true for you, what you actually want, not what's making sense, what's real. And most of us have spent so long being practical that we've lost touch with that. The Clarity Compass is how you find it again. The second phase is called decide. This is where most of us get stuck in our own heads. I know I do. You can see a few different directions, right? They all have merits, they all have risk, and you go around the circles trying to figure out the right answer, which usually means you don't decide anything at all. Inside this phase, there's a framework called the direction filter, and it's exactly what it sounds like. And it's a way of running your options through a specific set of criteria so you can stop going in circles and actually land somewhere. And it's not because the filter makes the decision for you, it's because it helps you see the options more clearly because our anxiety won't let us. The third phase is called do. This is where most planning tools live exclusively. And it's why a lot of planning tools don't work for those of us in transition. Because if you haven't done the discover and decide work first, the do phase, it just becomes another abandoned to-do list. At least for me, it did. And inside this phase, there's a framework called the momentum map. It breaks down the direction you've decided on into the smallest possible real actions for a project plan, not a 5-year roadmap. Just the next step, and then the other next step, and then the next one after that. Small micro steps. It's built specifically for people who are doing this alongside a full life, a job, a family, responsibilities that don't pause while we're figuring out our next step. I want to be specific about who I built this for because I think it matters. This planner is not for 28-year-olds who've been on jobs and have 6 months of runway to figure out your next move. It's for women who have decades of history behind them, who have been a particular kind of person for a very, very long time. Women who have people in our lives who are attached to the old version and aren't sure what to make of the new one. Women who need something to respect the complexity of our actual lives, not a system built for someone with fewer obligations and less history. The entire planner is built with that in mind. The questions in the Clarity Compass are designed for someone with a long history to sift through. And the direction filter accounts for the real constraints of a life at 50. Financial obligations, relationships, health, time. The momentum map is built for someone who can't quit her job on a Tuesday and start her passion on a Wednesday. It's built for someone who has to build the next thing while she's still doing the current thing. That's who I built this for because that's who I am. The 90-day Reinvention Planner is available now at both my Stand store and my website. I'll leave the links below. It's 112 pages. It's a guided workbook and planner hybrid, meaning it's not just prompts to fill in. It's a structure you move through over 90 days with 3 frameworks built into each phase. It's not intimidating. And there's a fillable printable version for $27. There's also a spiral bound print version for $37. It's the same content, but for those of us that like a physical book and a spiral and just something to hold on to, I made that available as well. I want to say one more thing about the price because I think about this. This isn't a course, it's not a coaching program. It's just a tool. It's something that you pick up, you work through at your own pace, and put it down when you're done with it and pick it up again. So the investment is low, but the ask is your honesty and a little bit of your time. And you've been in that gap. If you've done enough emotional work to know something needs to change, but you still can't figure out what comes next, this is what I built it for. I want to end with something that isn't about the planner. There is a version of this planner where I don't build it, where I stay in the gap long enough that the gap starts to feel normal. And I keep telling myself I'll figure it out eventually, and eventually keeps moving further and further away. I've been that woman, and I've watched that happen to women I know. Smart, capable, experienced women who had everything they needed to figure out what came next, except a structure that helped them actually do it. You don't have to stay in the gap. You don't have to have it all figured out before you start. And you don't even have to know exactly where you're going before you take the first step. You just have to be willing to be honest about where you are right now and move 1 degree forward from there. That's it, just a structure. I'll leave the link below, and I'll see you next time.